An orphan shared her only coat with a freezing woman. The simple act of kindness that would forever alter Lily Morgan's life happened on the coldest night of December, when frost etched delicate patterns on windows and the bitter wind cut through even the thickest layers of clothing. But Lily had only one thin coat to her name, a navy blue second-hand thing with frayed cuffs and a broken zipper she'd fastened closed with safety pins. The 18-year-old huddled deeper into that coat as she hurried along the deserted street, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. 5 years in the foster system had taught her that possessions were temporary, but this coat had somehow stayed with her through 3 different homes. It wasn't much, but it was hers, one of the few constants in a life defined by impermanence. Snow crunched beneath her worn boots as she made her way back to Mrs. Winter's boarding house. The elderly woman had offered Lily a modest room at reduced rent after she'd aged out of the system 3 months ago. It wasn't home. Lily wasn't sure she remembered what home felt like anymore, but it was shelter. And on nights like this, shelter meant survival. The distant sound of church bells marked 8 o'clock, their mournful tones swallowed by the howling wind. Lily quickened her pace. Her waitressing shift had run late, and now darkness had fully descended, bringing with it a bone-deep cold that made her fingers ache despite her thin gloves. That's when she saw her, a woman huddled on a bench near the bus stop, trembling violently. She wore only a light sweater, her arms wrapped tightly around herself in a futile attempt to generate warmth. Her dark hair, streaked with premature gray, whipped around her face, which was pale with cold. Lily hesitated. She'd learned long ago that the world rarely rewarded kindness. The foster system had taught her that painful lesson repeatedly. Every time she'd opened her heart, shared her meager possessions, or formed attachments, something had been taken from her. Self-preservation had become instinct. Yet something about the woman's hunched shoulders and vacant stare tugged at something deep within Lily's chest. She looked lost. Not just physically cold, but emotionally frozen, as though she'd reached the end of a very long, difficult road. Before she could reconsider, Lily found herself approaching the bench. "Miss? Are you okay?" Her voice came out thin and uncertain, nearly carried away by the wind. The woman looked up, revealing hollow cheeks and eyes that seemed too large for her face, eyes that were a startling shade of green, rimmed with exhaustion. Something about those eyes made Lily's breath catch. "The bus?" The woman's voice trembled as much as her body. "I missed the last one." Lily glanced at the schedule posted on the bench. The next bus wouldn't come until morning. The woman would freeze long before then. "There's a shelter 3 blocks from here," Lily offered, knowing it was probably full by now. "On nights this cold, it always was." The woman shook her head slightly. "They wouldn't. I can't." She didn't finish, but Lily understood. Some people couldn't face the shelters, whether from pride or fear or some other private pain. Lily stood there, the wind cutting through her inadequate coat, her fingers growing numb. The smart thing would be to walk away. She had her own struggles, her own battle just to keep warm and fed. Taking on someone else's problems had never ended well for her, yet she couldn't move, couldn't tear her gaze from those green eyes that seemed somehow familiar, like a half-remembered dream. With trembling fingers, Lily began unfastening the safety pins that held her coat closed. The wind immediately sliced through her thin waitress uniform, raising goosebumps along her arms, but she continued, sliding the coat from her shoulders. "Here," she said, holding it out to the woman. "Take it." The woman stared, uncomprehending. "I can't, please," Lily insisted, the word forming another cloud in the frigid air. "I don't live far." This wasn't entirely true. Mrs. Winter's boarding house was still a 15-minute walk away, and without her coat, the cold would be nearly unbearable. But something told Lily this woman needed the warmth more than she did. Slowly, with shaking hands, the woman reached for the coat. As their fingers briefly touched during the exchange, Lily felt a strange jolt, like static electricity but warmer, deeper, a recognition her conscious mind couldn't quite grasp. "Thank you," the woman whispered, clutching the coat to her chest before carefully putting it on. I don't know what to say." Lily shrugged, already shivering violently. "It's okay. Just..." She hesitated, an unfamiliar impulse taking hold. "Just take care of yourself, okay?" The woman nodded, those green eyes never leaving Lily's face, studying her with an intensity that made Lily uncomfortable. There was something in that gaze. Hunger? Hope? Whatever it was, it scared her. "I should go." Lily mumbled, backing away. "Good night." She turned and hurried away, arms wrapped tightly around herself, the cold already seeping into her bones. She didn't look back, didn't see the woman rise from the bench, didn't notice her take a few hesitant steps in Lily's direction before stopping, one hand outstretched, lips forming a word that might have been a name. By the time Lily reached Mrs. Winter's boarding house, she could no longer feel her fingers or toes. Her teeth chattered uncontrollably as she fumbled with her key, eventually managing to let herself in. The narrow hallway was barely warmer than outside, but at least it was sheltered from the wind. Lily made her way up the creaking stairs to her small attic room, where a space heater fought a losing battle against the drafts that whistled through the poorly insulated walls. As she changed into the warmest clothes she owned, a pair of flannel pajamas and 2 pairs of socks, she tried not to think about her coat or the woman with the haunting green eyes. She'd probably never see either again. That's how life worked. People appeared and disappeared, leaving only brief impressions, like footprints in snow that would be gone by morning. Lily wrapped herself in her thin blanket and curled up on her narrow bed, trying to generate enough body heat to stop shivering. She had another early shift tomorrow, and she couldn't afford to call in sick, not when her savings were so meager. She needed every dollar if she was ever going to escape this hand-to-mouth existence. As exhaustion pulled her toward sleep, those green eyes floated in her memory. There had been something so familiar about them, so she couldn't quite place it. Like déjà vu, a recognition without context. Lily dismissed the thought. She was just tired, and the cold had made her imagination run wild. Yet as she drifted into uneasy sleep, her dreams were filled with fragmented memories, a woman's soft voice singing a lullaby, the scent of lavender, a home she could no longer picture clearly. And through it all, those green eyes watching her with a love so intense it hurt. Morning came with weak sunlight and slightly less bitter cold. Lily woke feeling feverish, her throat raw, but she dragged herself out of bed anyway. No work meant no pay, and no pay meant no rent. The equation was simple and merciless. Her uniform felt especially thin as she made her way to Maggie's diner, where she'd worked since aging out of foster care. The walk, typically brisk and purposeful, became a slow trudge as she fought against chills and dizziness. The diner's warmth hit her like a physical force when she pushed through the door, making her eyes water and her frozen cheeks tingle painfully as they thawed. "Jesus, girl, where's your coat?" Maggie Henderson herself, the 60-something owner with dyed red hair and perpetually flour-dusted hands, stood behind the counter, eyes widening at Lily's appearance. Lily hesitated, knowing how foolish her actions would sound to practical Maggie. "I gave it away." "You what?" Maggie's hands stilled in the middle of folding napkins. "In this weather? Have you lost your mind?" Lily made her way behind the counter, grabbing her apron with trembling hands. "There was this woman at the bus stop. She looked worse off than me." Maggie stared at her for a long moment, then sighed heavily. "Your heart's too big for your own good, kid. Always has been." She reached under the counter and pulled out a knitted scarf in bright purple. "Take this, at least. Can't have you dying of pneumonia on my watch." Lily accepted the scarf gratefully, wrapping it around her neck. The wool was scratchy but warm, and Maggie's unexpected kindness brought a lump to her throat. "Thanks, Maggie." "Yeah, well," the older woman waved dismissively. "The morning rush'll be here soon. Get the coffee started." The day passed in a blur of coffee refills, plate deliveries, and the constant struggle against the congestion building in her chest. By early afternoon, Lily could barely keep herself upright, swaying slightly as she took orders from the lunch crowd. "You look like death warmed over," Maggie observed during a brief lull. "Go home, Lily. We can manage." "I'm fine," Lily insisted, though her voice rasped painfully. "I need the hours. What you need is rest before you collapse." Maggie's tone left no room for argument. "Go. I'll still pay you for the full shift." Tears of gratitude pricked at Lily's eyes. "Maggie, Don't get sappy on me." Maggie cut her off, but her weathered face softened. "Just take care of yourself, kid. You're no good to anyone if you work yourself into the grave." The walk back to the boarding house seemed twice as long as usual. Each step required concentration. Each breath became more labored than the last. By the time Lily reached her street, black spots danced at the edges of her vision. That's when she saw her again, the woman from the night before, wearing Lily's navy blue coat, standing outside Mrs. Winter's boarding house, her posture hesitant, uncertain. Lily stopped, swaying slightly on her feet. The woman hadn't noticed her yet, seemed to be gathering courage to approach the door. Lily watched as she raised a hand to knock, then lowered it again, shaking her head slightly. "Are you looking for someone?" The woman whirled around at the sound of Lily's voice, those remarkable green eyes widening. "You?" she breathed, and the single word carried a weight of emotion Lily couldn't decipher. "Me?" Lily confirmed, then immediately regretted speaking as a coughing fit overtook her, harsh and painful. She doubled over, struggling to catch her breath. Warm hands suddenly steadied her shoulders. "You're sick," the woman said, her voice thick with concern. "Because of what you did for me." "It's just a cold," Lily managed between coughs. "I'm fine." "You're not fine." The woman's hand moved to Lily's forehead, the touch both foreign and achingly familiar. "You're burning up." The world tilted alarmingly, and Lily found herself leaning heavily against the stranger. "Sorry," she mumbled. "Just need to lie down for a minute. Let me help you inside," the woman said, supporting Lily's weight with surprising strength for someone who had looked so fragile the night before. Lily wanted to protest, to pull away, to maintain the careful distance she'd always kept between herself and others. But she had no strength left, could only surrender to the support being offered as the woman guided her toward the boarding house entrance. "Mrs. Winters answered their knock, her lined face creasing with concern at the sight of Lily's condition. "Good heavens, child! What's happened?" "She's very ill," the woman in Lily's coat explained. "She needs to rest, Mrs. Winters ushered them inside, her practical efficiency taking over as she helped guide Lily up the narrow stairs to her attic room. "Who are you, dear?" she asked the stranger. The woman hesitated, her gaze fixed on Lily's feverish face. "I'm an old friend. She helped me last night, and I wanted to return her coat." Lily was vaguely aware of being settled onto her bed, of Mrs. Winters disappearing to make tea, of the stranger hovering nearby, her expression a mix of concern and something deeper, more complicated. "I never asked your name," Lily murmured, fighting to keep her eyes open. The woman moved closer, perching carefully on the edge of the bed. "It's Sarah," she said softly. "Sarah Brennan." Something about the name tugged at Lily's consciousness, but the fever made her thoughts slippery, hard to grasp. "I'm Lily." "I know," Sarah whispered, and there was something in her voice, a tremor, a catch, that pierced through Lily's feverish haze. "How do you—" But the question dissolved as another coughing fit racked her body. "Shh, don't talk." Sarah's hand found Lily's, her touch cool against burning skin. "Just rest now." Lily wanted to resist, wanted answers to the questions forming in her mind, but exhaustion dragged her down into darkness. Sarah's green eyes the last thing she saw before consciousness slipped away. Fever dreams came and went, disjointed and confusing. In some, Sarah was there, pressing cool cloths to her forehead, helping her sip water. In others, Lily was a child again, being held by someone who sang softly, whose voice made her feel safe. The dreams bled into each other, past and present merging until Lily couldn't tell what was memory and what was imagination. When she finally woke properly, weak sunlight filtered through her small window. Her fever had broken, leaving her exhausted but clear-headed, and she wasn't alone. Sarah sat in Lily's only chair, her head tilted back against the wall, eyes closed in sleep. She still wore Lily's coat, though it was unbuttoned now. In sleep, the lines of strain had eased from her face, making her look younger, more vulnerable. Lily studied her, this stranger who had stayed. No one stayed. That was the one constant in Lily's life. People always left, whether by choice or circumstance. Foster parents, social workers, the few friends she'd made in the system, they all eventually disappeared from her life. Yet Sarah was still here, had apparently spent the night watching over her. Why? As if sensing Lily's gaze, Sarah stirred, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment they simply looked at each other, the silence charged with unspoken questions. "How are you feeling?" Sarah finally asked, her voice rough with sleep. "Better," Lily said, surprised to find it was true. Her throat still hurt and her body ached, but the crushing weight on her chest had eased. "You stayed." It wasn't a question, but Sarah answered anyway. "Yes." "Why?" Sarah looked away, her fingers fidgeting with the frayed cuff of Lily's coat. "You needed help. You didn't even know me." "You didn't know me either," Sarah countered softly. "But you gave me your only coat." Lily had no response to that. The simple act that had seemed necessary in the moment now felt foolishly impulsive in the cold light of day. I should get up. I have work, Mrs. Winters called your boss. Sarah interrupted. Maggie, right? She said you're not to come in until you're fully recovered. Lily sank back against her pillow, torn between gratitude and anxiety. I can't afford to miss shifts. Maggie said not to worry about that. Sarah hesitated, then added, She seems to care about you. She's just practical. Doesn't want me infecting the customers. Lily deflected, uncomfortable with the idea that Maggie might actually care about her welfare. Sarah's lips curved in a slight smile. I don't think that's all it is. The moment stretched between them, oddly intimate for two virtual strangers. Lily became acutely aware of the smallness of her room, of her unwashed hair and fever-sweaty clothes. I should. Sarah stood abruptly, as if also feeling the awkwardness. You probably want to rest without someone staring at you. Wait, Lily said, surprising herself. Your name, Sarah Brennan. It sounds familiar? Sarah supplied, her voice carefully neutral. Yes. Lily frowned, trying to capture the elusive memory that kept dancing just beyond her reach. Have we met before? Before the bus stop, I mean. Sarah stood very still, her hands clutching the edges of the coat. What do you remember about your life before foster care, Lily? The question hit like a physical blow. Lily never spoke about that time, the before time as she thought of it. The social workers had encouraged her to talk when she'd first entered the system, but Lily had locked those memories away, finding it easier to move forward without the weight of what she'd lost. Not much, she admitted, though this wasn't entirely true. She remembered fragments. A yellow kitchen, a garden with roses, a woman's laugh. But these memories were like photographs faded almost to blankness, indistinct and unreliable. Nothing about your parents? Sarah pressed, her voice tight with some suppressed emotion. Lily's defenses rose instantly. Why are you asking me this? Who are you? Sarah took a step back, seeming to realize she'd pushed too far. I'm sorry. It's not my place to... I should go. She began unbuttoning the coat. I came to return this anyway. Keep it, Lily said, the words escaping before she could consider them. It's getting warmer now and you need it more than I do. Sarah's hands stilled on the buttons. I can't take your only coat, Lily. You already did. Lily pointed out with a small smile, trying to lighten the suddenly heavy atmosphere. Besides, I'm saving up for a new one. A proper winter coat that actually zips. Sarah looked like she wanted to argue further, but instead she slowly rebuttoned the coat, her fingers lingering on the safety pins that held the front together. Thank you, she said, the simple words carrying a weight of emotion that seemed disproportionate to the gesture. It's just a coat. Lily shrugged, then immediately regretted it as her body protested the movement. No. Sarah's gaze was intense, unwavering. It's not just a coat. It's... She trailed off, swallowing hard. I should let you rest. She moved toward the door, then paused, turning back. Would it be all right if I came back tomorrow? To check on you? Lily hesitated. The sensible answer would be no. She knew nothing about this woman, and the personal questions about her past made her uneasy. Yet there was something about Sarah that called to her, something that felt important, even necessary. Okay, she finally said. But no more questions about before. Sarah nodded, her relief visible. No more questions, she promised. Just a friendly visit. After Sarah left, Lily fell back into a dreamless sleep, her body demanding rest to continue healing. When she woke again, the room was dark, and Mrs. Winters was setting a tray with soup and tea on the small table by her bed. Your friend seems nice, Mrs. Winters commented as she helped Lily sit up, though a bit intense. Couldn't take her eyes off you. She's not really my friend, Lily said, accepting the mug of tea gratefully. Just someone I helped, Mrs. Winters made a non-committal sound. Well, she certainly seems invested in your recovery. Went out and bought medicines for you, asked me all sorts of questions about what you like to eat, what might make you feel better. Lily blinked in surprise. She did? Mrs. Winters arranged Lily's pillows more comfortably, said she'd be back tomorrow with proper food, claimed that would help you recover faster than my perfectly good chicken soup. There was a hint of affectionate indignation in the landlady's voice, and Lily found herself smiling despite her confusion about Sarah's motives. Your soup is wonderful, Mrs. Winters. Humph. At least someone appreciates it. The older woman patted Lily's hand. Eat while it's hot, dear, and try not to worry about work or rent for now. Focus on getting better. Lily nodded, though worry was her constant companion where money was concerned. 3 months of independence had taught her just how precarious financial stability could be, especially for someone with no family safety net. As promised, Sarah returned the next day, arriving just after noon with a large paper bag that emanated delicious smells. "Homemade chicken soup?" she announced, setting the bag on Lily's small table. "With extra garlic and ginger. My family recipe," she corrected quickly. "It always helped when I was sick." Lily, who'd managed to wash and change into clean pajamas that morning, sat propped up in bed, watching as Sarah unpacked the bag. Besides the soup in a large container, there were oranges, a box of herbal tea, honey, and a small bottle of cough syrup. "You didn't have to do all this," Lily said, uncomfortable with being the object of such focused care. Sarah paused in her unpacking. "I wanted to," she said simply. "Please let me do this for you, Lily." There was something in her voice, a plea that went beyond the simple request, that made Lily nod in agreement. "Okay, thank you." The soup was indeed delicious, rich and flavorful in a way that spoke of careful preparation. As Lily ate, Sarah sat in the chair nearby, making casual conversation that carefully avoided any mention of Lily's past or personal history. Instead, she talked about the city, about the bookstore she'd discovered the day before, about the spring flowers beginning to appear in the park. Normal, everyday observations that somehow felt precious, as though Sarah was collecting these small moments and storing them away like treasures. "Where are you staying?" Lily asked during a lull in the conversation, realizing she knew almost nothing about Sarah's own situation. A shadow crossed Sarah's face. "I found a room at a motel on Cedar Street." Cedar Street was in one of the roughest areas of town. Lily frowned. "That's not a great neighborhood." "It's temporary," Sarah assured her. She hesitated, then continued vaguely, "until I figure things out." Lily wanted to ask more, but respected the boundaries Sarah herself had established. If Sarah could avoid questions about Lily's past, Lily could extend the same courtesy. Over the next few days, a routine developed. Sarah would arrive around noon, bringing food and staying for several hours. They would talk, sometimes watch shows on Lily's small laptop, occasionally just sit in comfortable silence. Sarah helped change the sheets on Lily's bed, went out to buy her more cough medicine when she ran out, even brought a used paperback mystery novel when Lily mentioned being bored. Each day, Lily found herself looking forward to Sarah's visits with increasing anticipation. There was something soothing about the other woman's presence, a sense of rightness that Lily couldn't explain. Despite the initial awkwardness and the many unanswered questions that hung between them, they settled into a companionship that felt both new and strangely familiar. By the 5th day, Lily was well enough to return to work. She dressed for her shift at the diner, surprised to find herself reluctant to leave her small room, which had become a cocoon of connection during her illness. "You're sure you're ready?" Sarah asked, concern evident in her voice as she watched Lily pull on her shoes. "I have to get back to work sometime," Lily pointed out. "Besides, I'm feeling much better thanks to your miracle soup." Sarah smiled, though the expression didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's not miraculous, just made with—" She trailed off, her gaze dropping to her hands. "With care." Something in her tone made Lily look up sharply. "Sarah, are you okay?" Sarah nodded quickly. "Of course. I suppose I've grown used to our afternoons together. We can still—" Lily began, then faltered, unsure what she was offering. Friendship? Something more? And what did Sarah want from her? The questions that Lily had pushed aside during her recovery suddenly resurfaced. "Still what?" Sarah prompted softly when Lily didn't continue. Lily took a deep breath. "Why did you really come back that day? It wasn't just to return the coat." Sarah went very still, her eyes fixed on some point beyond Lily's shoulder. "No," she finally admitted. "It wasn't just for the coat." "Then why?" Lily pressed, needing to understand the connection that had formed between them so quickly, so intensely. Sarah's gaze finally met hers, those green eyes swimming with emotion. "Because I couldn't walk away." "Not again." "Again?" Lily repeated, her heartbeat accelerating. "What do you mean again? When did you walk away before?" Sarah stood abruptly, her hands trembling slightly. "You should get to work. You don't want to be late your first day back." "Sarah." Lily caught her wrist as she turned to leave. "Please, no more evasions. Who are you to me?" The room fell silent, the question hanging between them like a physical thing. Sarah's pulse raced beneath Lily's fingers, her breath coming in short, uneven bursts. "I can't," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm not ready to—" "You're not ready to—" "Try," Lily urged, not releasing her hold. "Please try." Sarah closed her eyes briefly, gathering herself. When she opened them again, they shone with unshed tears. "Your eyes," she said softly. "They're your father's eyes. Exactly his. The same shape, the same shade of brown. But your smile—" A tear slipped down her cheek. "Your smile is mine." The words hit Lily like a physical blow, causing her to drop Sarah's wrist and step back. "What are you saying?" But she knew. Somewhere deep inside, in the place where her earliest memories lived, Lily had known from the moment she'd looked into those green eyes at the bus stop. "Your full name is Lillian Marie Morgan," Sarah continued, her voice steadying despite the tears now flowing freely. "You were born on April 12th, 18 years ago, at St. Mary's Hospital. Your first word was light. You were afraid of the vacuum cleaner but loved thunderstorms. You had a stuffed rabbit named Hoppy that you couldn't sleep without." Lily shook her head, backing away until her legs hit the edge of the bed. "Stop. You loved blueberry pancakes on Sunday mornings. You could sing the entire alphabet song by the time you were 2. Your favorite color was yellow, like the daffodils we planted in the garden together." "Stop it!" Lily's voice rose, her hands coming up to cover her ears. "You can't be—" "You're not?" "I'm your mother, Lily," Sarah said, the words falling into the room like stones into still water, creating ripples that would never cease. "I'm your mother." Lily's legs gave out and she sank onto the bed, her mind reeling. Fragments of memories surfaced. A woman's hands helping her plant yellow flowers, the same hands braiding her hair, tucking her in at night, waving goodbye at a school gate. "No," she whispered, though the denial felt hollow even to her own ears. "My mother abandoned me. She left me when I was 10 and never came back." Sarah made a sound of pure pain. "I didn't abandon you, Lily. I would never—" "I was sick. Very sick." "Sick?" Lily's head snapped up, anger suddenly cutting through her shock. "For 8 years? So sick you couldn't even call or write or make sure I was okay? Mental illness," Sarah clarified, her voice small but steady. "I had a complete breakdown after your father died. The doctors called it psychotic depression. I wasn't myself, Lily. I couldn't take care of you. I couldn't even take care of myself. So they put me in foster care," Lily said flatly. "And you just— What? Forgot about me?" "No!" Sarah took a step forward, then stopped when Lily flinched. "No, never. But I was hospitalized for nearly 2 years. By the time I was well enough to function again, to try to find you, you had been moved multiple times. The system, it's so complicated, so many barriers. And I had no resources, no money for lawyers." 8 years, Lily repeated, her voice hollow. "You expect me to believe you spent 8 years looking for me?" Sarah's shoulders slumped. "Not 8 years of active searching. There were setbacks, relapses, times when I barely survived myself." She wrapped her arms around her middle, as if holding herself together. "But I never stopped thinking about you, never stopped loving you. And when I finally got stable again, got a job, saved some money, I hired a private investigator 3 months ago. He found you last week." Lily's mind was spinning, trying to reconcile this new information with the narrative she'd constructed over years of silence. In her darkest moments, she'd imagined her mother starting a new life, a new family, forgetting the daughter she'd left behind. The reality Sarah presented was both better and worse. A mother who never forgot, never stopped loving her, but who had been too broken to reach her. "The bus stop," Lily said suddenly. "That wasn't an accident, was it? You were waiting for me." Sarah nodded, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I'd been watching the diner for 2 days, trying to work up the courage to come inside. But I was afraid you'd reject me outright, afraid you'd hate me." A sad smile crossed her face. "I never imagined you'd give me your coat. You were freezing," Lily said automatically. "Yes, but most people wouldn't have noticed. Or cared." Sarah looked up, her eyes full of a fierce pride that caught Lily off guard. "But you did. You grew into such a compassionate person, even after everything you've been through." The simple praise, delivered with such maternal pride, broke something open inside Lily. Tears she hadn't realized she was holding back spilled over, running hot down her cheeks. "I thought you didn't want me," she whispered, the admission tearing from somewhere deep and wounded. "I thought I wasn't enough for you to stay." Sarah made a broken sound and closed the distance between them, kneeling in front of Lily. "No, baby, no. You were everything. You were my whole world. Leaving you was like leaving my heart behind. Nothing in my life has ever hurt more." Lily wanted to pull away, to protect herself from the pain of reopening this old wound. But Sarah's words resonated with a truth she couldn't deny. And those eyes, her mother's eyes, held a love so profound, so unmistakable, that it cut through years of doubt. "I don't know what to feel," Lily admitted, her voice small. "I don't know what to do with this." "You don't have to know right now," Sarah said gently. "You don't have to decide anything or feel anything specific. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Lily. I'm not even asking for a relationship, not if you don't want one. I needed you to know the truth. To know that you were loved. That you are loved." Lily looked at this woman, her mother, really looked at her. Beneath the premature gray in her hair and the lines of hardship on her face, she could see echoes of the mother from her childhood memories. The same green eyes, the same curve of her mouth, the same small birthmark near her left ear that Lily had forgotten until this moment. "I'm going to be late for work," Lily said, the mundane reality of her life reasserting itself in the face of this emotional earthquake. Sarah nodded, rising slowly to her feet. "Of course, I understand. But maybe—" Lily hesitated, every instinct for self-preservation warring with the pull of this newly rediscovered connection. "Maybe we could talk more. After my shift." Hope bloomed in Sarah's eyes, cautious but unmistakable. "I'd like that very much." "This doesn't mean I forgive you," Lily said quickly, "or that I trust you. I don't know if I can." "I know," Sarah acknowledged. "Trust has to be earned, and forgiveness can't be rushed." "I'm willing to wait, Lily. I've waited 8 years already. I can wait as long as you need." Lily nodded, standing on shaky legs. "I really do have to go now." "Of course." Sarah stepped back, giving her space. "Good luck with your shift." Lily gathered her things, her movements mechanical as her mind continued to process the revelation. At the door, she paused, looking back at Sarah, who stood in the center of the small room, looking simultaneously out of place and like she belonged exactly there. "The coat," Lily said suddenly. "Take care of it, okay? It's been with me through a lot." Sarah's fingers went to the safety pins that held the front closed, a gesture that now seemed infinitely tender. "I will," she promised. "It kept me warm on the coldest night, just like your kindness." Lily nodded once, then slipped out the door, closing it softly behind her. As she made her way to the diner, each step felt different somehow, as if the ground beneath her feet had shifted. The world looked the same streets, the same buildings, the same gray sky threatening rain. But everything had changed. Her mother was alive. Her mother had found her. Her mother had never stopped loving her. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It wasn't even trust. But as Lily pushed open the door to Maggie's diner, she realized it was something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a very long time. It was hope. The diner shift passed in a blur. Lily moved through her usual routine, filling coffee cups, taking orders, delivering plates of food, while her mind remained fixated on Sarah. On her mother. The words still felt strange, foreign, like trying on clothes that might once have fit but had been outgrown. "You're a million miles away today," Maggie observed during a lull between the lunch and dinner crowds. "That fever scramble your brains?" Lily managed to smile. "Something like that." Maggie studied her with shrewd eyes. "This have anything to do with that woman who called about you? The one who sounded like she was about to cry just asking how you were doing?" Lily's hands stilled in the middle of folding napkins. "She called you?" "Couple times," Maggie confirmed. "Very concerned about whether you were eating enough, resting enough. Reminded me of—" She trailed off, her expression softening. "Well, she reminded me of how a mother worries." Lily swallowed hard against the sudden thickness in her throat. "She's my mother," she admitted, the words feeling strange on her tongue. "I just found out today. Or rather, she found me." Maggie's eyebrows shot up, but she didn't express the shock Lily had expected. Instead, she nodded slowly, as if pieces of a puzzle were falling into place. "That explains a lot. The way she talked about you. The questions she asked. You're not surprised?" "Honey, I've seen enough of life to know that stranger things have happened." Maggie wiped her hands on her apron. "The question is, how do you feel about it?" "I don't know," Lily admitted. "Confused? Angry? Hopeful? Scared? All of it at once." "That sounds about right," Maggie said with the wisdom of someone who had weathered her own storms. "Family is complicated. Always has been, always will be. She left me," Lily said, the hurt still raw despite Sarah's explanation. "For 8 years. Did she tell you why?" "Mental illness." A breakdown after my father died. Lily's fingers worked at the edge of a napkin, creasing and uncreasing it. She says she tried to find me, but the system's a maze, and people without resources get lost in it, Maggie finished. I've seen it happen. Lily looked up, surprised by Maggie's understanding. The older woman shrugged. My sister lost custody of her kids during a bad stretch. Took her 5 years to get them back, and that was with me helping with lawyer fees. Maggie's normally gruff voice softened. Not saying what happened to you was right or fair. Just saying sometimes the reasons people leave aren't what we think. Lily nodded, absorbing this perspective. I told her we could talk more, after my shift. And you're wondering if that's a mistake, Maggie guessed. What if she disappears again? Lily voiced her deepest fear. What if I let her back in and she leaves again? That's always the risk with opening your heart, kid. Maggie reached out, briefly squeezing Lily's shoulder, a rare physical gesture from the typically reserved woman. But from where I'm standing, you've been doing just fine on your own. You're strong. If the worst happens, you'll survive it. And if it doesn't? Lily whispered. If she's really back for good? Maggie's weathered face creased in a genuine smile. Then maybe you get something most people in your situation never do, a second chance at having a mother. The simple truth of this statement struck Lily with unexpected force. A second chance. Not many orphans or foster kids ever got that opportunity. Thanks, Maggie, she said softly. Don't mention it. Maggie waved dismissively, her brief moment of sentimentality passing. Now finish those napkins. The dinner crowd'll be here before we know it. By the time Lily's shift ended, rain had begun to fall, a gentle spring shower that left the streets glistening under the streetlights. She hurried back to the boarding house, both dreading and anticipating the conversation that awaited her. Sarah was still there, sitting on the edge of Lily's bed, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She stood when Lily entered, her expression a mixture of hope and trepidation. You came back, she said softly, as if she'd half expected Lily to disappear. I live here, Lily pointed out, setting down her bag. Yes, of course. Sarah smoothed her hands down the front of Lily's coat, which she still wore. I just thought you might need more time. I probably do, Lily admitted, sinking into her single chair. But I have questions. A lot of questions. Sarah nodded, resuming her seat on the bed. I'll answer anything. Everything. No more secrets. Lily took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. Start at the beginning. What happened after Dad died? Sarah's hands twisted together in her lap, but her gaze remained steady. Your father's death was sudden. A heart attack while he was at work. You were at school. I was the one who found him when he didn't come home. Lily nodded. This much she remembered. Being pulled out of class, the principal's somber face, her mother's red-rimmed eyes and trembling hands. I thought I was handling it, Sarah continued. I arranged the funeral, dealt with the insurance, tried to keep our routine as normal as possible for your sake. But inside, she pressed a hand to her chest. Inside, I was falling apart. Your father and I had been together since high school. I didn't know how to exist without him. You seemed okay, Lily said, remembering the weeks after the funeral. Sad but functioning. I was pretending, Sarah admitted. For you. But at night when you were asleep, I couldn't stop crying. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. And then the paranoia started. Paranoia? Sarah nodded, her expression pained. I became convinced that something would happen to you too, that I would lose you like I'd lost him. I started checking on you multiple times during the night, became terrified to let you out of my sight. Vague memories stirred in Lily's mind, her mother's increasingly anxious behavior, the dark circles under her eyes growing deeper, the way she'd sometimes stare into space, unresponsive to Lily's questions. You started acting different, Lily said slowly. I remember being scared. I'm so sorry, Sarah whispered. The depression turned into something more serious. I started having delusions, hearing your father's voice, convinced he was trying to warn me about dangers to you. The night they took me away? She faltered and Lily prompted, what happened that night? It was the night everything had changed, the last time she'd seen her mother until now, yet her memories of it were fragmented, distorted by childhood fear and confusion. I had a complete psychotic break, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the pain evident in her eyes. I was convinced someone was trying to break into the house to take you. I barricaded the doors, was waving a kitchen knife, screaming about protecting you. A neighbor called the police. Lily flinched. She remembered the shouting, the flashing lights, hiding in her closet with her hands over her ears. They took you away in an ambulance. Sarah nodded. I was involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility, diagnosed with psychotic depression. The doctors later told me I'd likely been suffering from undiagnosed depression for years, and your father's death was the trigger for the full breakdown. And me? Lily asked, the question that had haunted her for 8 years. What happened to me that night? Child Protective Services took custody, Sarah said, her voice catching. You were supposed to go to my sister, your Aunt Carol, but she was living overseas then. By the time she could arrange to come back, you had already been placed in foster care. And then what? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. The court determined I was an unfit mother. My doctors testified that my condition was severe, that recovery would be long and uncertain. Without a family member immediately available to take you, and with me unable to care for you. She wiped at her tears. They terminated my parental rights. The legal terminology felt cold, clinical, unable to capture the human devastation it had caused. So I became a ward of the state, Lily said flatly. Yes, Sarah confirmed. I fought it as much as I could from the hospital, but without money for a good lawyer, without being stable enough to appear competent. She shook her head. By the time I was released, the decision was final. You were legally no longer my daughter. The weight of this revelation settled over Lily. She'd always assumed her mother had simply left, had chosen to abandon her. The reality that the separation had been enforced by courts and doctors, by systems too rigid to accommodate human frailty and recovery, was both better and worse than the abandonment she'd imagined. What about Aunt Carol? Why didn't she take me? She tried, Sarah said. But by then, you'd been in the system for months. The courts were reluctant to remove you from what they termed a stable placement to place you with an aunt you barely knew. I remember her, Lily said, surprised by the sudden clear memory. She had red hair. She brought me a stuffed penguin once. Sarah smiled sadly. She did. She visited you whenever she could get permission, those first couple of years. But eventually, your caseworker decided the visits were disrupting your adjustment and restricted them. Each new piece of information reshuffled Lily's understanding of her past, forcing her to reconsider what she'd believed for years. She'd thought herself unwanted, forgotten. The truth was more complex. She had been wanted, searched for, fought for, but separated by systems and circumstances beyond a sick mother's control. When did you get better? Lily asked. Really better? It wasn't a straight line, Sarah admitted. I was hospitalized for nearly 2 years that first time. Then transitional housing, outpatient treatment. I had periods of stability followed by relapses. The worst was about 4 years ago. I stopped taking my medication, convinced I was well enough without it. Ended up hospitalized again. And now? Now I'm stable, Sarah said firmly. I've been on the same medication regimen for 3 years. I have a therapist I see regularly. I have strategies for recognizing warning signs for managing stress. I'm not cured. I'll always have this condition, but I'm managing it successfully. Lily nodded, studying her mother's face. Despite the lines of hardship, there was a clarity in her eyes, a steadiness that spoke of hard-won equilibrium. The investigator, Lily said, returning to an earlier thread. How did you afford that? I saved, Sarah said simply. Every extra dollar for 2 years. I live very simply, and I had to wait until you were 18. Why 18? Because you were still a minor before that. Still in the system. Sarah's hands twisted together. I was afraid if I found you earlier, tried to contact you, it might cause problems for your placement, or that your social workers would prevent any contact given the termination of parental rights. The thought that Sarah had found her as soon as legally possible, had been waiting, planning, saving for this moment, struck Lily with unexpected force. Whatever else had happened, whatever mistakes had been made, her mother had never forgotten her, never stopped trying to reach her. That night at the bus stop, Lily said, a new thought occurring to her. You looked so lost, so broken. Sarah's face flushed with shame. I'd been watching the diner for 2 days, trying to work up the courage to go inside. Each time I got close, I panicked and backed away. That night, I'd finally decided I was being cowardly, that I needed to face you directly. But then I missed the last bus back to my motel, and it was so cold. You were going to approach me, Lily realized, but I found you first. The irony wasn't lost on me, Sarah said with a sad smile. My daughter, who I'd failed to protect, offering protection to me, giving me her only coat when I'd given her nothing for 8 years. Not nothing, Lily said quietly, surprising herself with the defense. You gave me life. You loved me for 10 years. You taught me, She paused, memories suddenly flooding back with unexpected clarity. You taught me to be kind, to help others when I could. That's why I gave you the coat. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. Even when I failed you so completely, something of what we had survived. I don't deserve the credit for the wonderful person you've become, Lily. You did that yourself despite everything. Lily felt her own eyes fill with tears, the emotions she'd been holding at bay finally breaking through. I missed you, she whispered, the admission torn from somewhere deep and wounded. Every birthday, every Christmas, every time something good or bad happened, I wanted my mom. Sarah made a sound of pure pain. I missed you every moment of every day. You were the first thought when I woke up and the last before I slept. On your birthdays, I bought small gifts and kept them, hoping someday I could give them to you. I have a box. She trailed off, swallowing hard. I have a box with 8 years of birthday and Christmas presents. Letters I wrote but couldn't send. Photos of you I managed to find online, from school websites or community events. The image of Sarah, alone in some small room, carefully wrapping gifts for a daughter who wasn't there, writing letters that would go unread, collecting glimpses of a life she couldn't be part of. It broke something open inside Lily, a dam of protective numbness she'd built around her heart. I want to be angry with you, Lily said, her voice breaking. I want to blame you for not being stronger, for not fighting harder, for not finding me sooner. You have every right to that anger, Sarah said softly. Every right to whatever you feel. But I keep thinking, Lily's voice caught. I keep thinking about how scared you must have been, how alone, how much you must have suffered losing Dad and then me. Sarah's eyes widened with surprise at this empathy, this capacity for understanding that went beyond Lily's years. I never expected you to consider my pain, she said. Not after what you've been through. 8 years in foster care taught me something about suffering, Lily said, about how people can be broken in ways that aren't their fault, about how systems that are supposed to help can sometimes hurt instead. Sarah nodded, recognition in her eyes. Yes, exactly that. A silence fell between them, but it was different now, less strained, more thoughtful. Lily looked at her mother, really looked at her, and saw not just the woman who had left, but the woman who had returned, who had fought her way back from mental illness, who had never stopped loving her daughter, who had given Lily life twice, once at birth and again with her return. I don't know what happens now, Lily admitted. I don't know how to be a daughter to you again, after all this time. We don't have to know yet, Sarah said gently. We can just start. Small steps, getting to know each other again. I'd like that, Lily said, surprising herself with how true it was. I'd like to try. Sarah's smile was like sunrise after the longest night, cautious but radiant with hope. That's more than I dared wish for. Outside, the rain had stopped, and a sliver of moon appeared between parting clouds, casting a soft silver light through Lily's small window. Mother and daughter sat in that gentle illumination, the silence between them no longer a barrier but a bridge, spanning 8 years of separation with the tentative beginnings of reconnection. You should keep the coat, Lily said suddenly. Not because you need it more, but because it found its way back to you, like I did. Sarah touched the safety pins that held the coat closed, understanding the symbolic weight of the gift. I'll treasure it, she promised, until you need it back. I don't think I will, Lily said, feeling something like peace settle over her for the first time in years. I think maybe we both found something warmer. In that small attic room, with the moonlight painting silver patterns on the floor, a miracle was taking place. Not the dramatic, instantaneous kind from fairy tales, but the slow, quiet miracle of two hearts beginning to find their way back to each other. It wasn't forgiveness yet, wasn't complete healing or perfect understanding, but it was a beginning. And sometimes, Lily thought as she looked at her mother's face, at once familiar and new, beginnings were the greatest miracles of all. The weeks that followed unfolded like the pages of a story neither of them could have imagined writing. Sarah found a small apartment not far from Mrs. Winter's boarding house, a modest one-bedroom with faded wallpaper and creaky floors, but with large windows that let in ample light. She took a job at a local bookstore, arranging her schedule to complement Lily's shifts at the diner. They began with small, careful steps toward rebuilding their relationship: coffee after Lily's shifts, weekend walks in the park. Tentative conversations that gradually grew deeper, more honest, as trust slowly rebuilt between them. Sarah showed Lily the box she'd mentioned, 8 years of birthday cards and Christmas presents, carefully selected and preserved. Together, they opened each one, creating new memories to replace the celebrations they'd missed. Lily learned that her mother had remembered her favorite colors, her love of mysteries, her childhood dream of becoming a veterinarian. Each gift was a tangible reminder that while they had been physically separated, the connection between them had never truly been severed. During one such evening, as they sat surrounded by wrapping paper and 8 years' worth of belated presents, Sarah hesitantly brought up a subject they'd both been avoiding. "I've been speaking with a lawyer," she said, carefully watching Lily's reaction, "about your father's life insurance policy." Lily's hands stilled in the middle of unwrapping a book. "What about it?" "A portion of it was set aside for your education," Sarah explained. "It was held in trust, but with the termination of parental rights, it became complicated. The lawyer believes we can recover it now that you're an adult." Lily blinked, struggling to process this information. "There's money? For college?" Sarah nodded, her eyes bright with cautious hope. "It won't cover everything, but combined with scholarships, it might be enough for you to start. If that's still something you want." "I never thought it was possible," Lily admitted. The dream of college had seemed as distant and unattainable as the stars. Foster children aging out of the system rarely had such opportunities. Survival took precedence over education. "It might be," Sarah said softly. "We won't know for certain until the lawyer completes her investigation, but it's worth exploring." That night, lying in her small bed at the boarding house, Lily allowed herself to imagine a future different from the one she'd resigned herself to, not just working multiple jobs to make ends meet, but studying, learning, growing toward a career that fulfilled her. The possibilities unfurled before her like a road leading somewhere new, somewhere better. And for the first time in years, that road didn't feel lonely. There was someone walking beside her now, someone who believed in her potential, who saw beyond her circumstances to who she could become. Spring deepened into summer, bringing long golden evenings and warm breezes that carried the scent of blooming flowers. On one such evening, Lily moved her few possessions from Mrs. Winter's boarding house to Sarah's apartment. The decision hadn't come easily. Trust, once broken, rebuild slowly, but the practical benefits were undeniable. The saved rent meant more money toward future education. The shorter commute to the diner gave her more time for studying. She'd enrolled in summer courses at the community college, the first step toward her degree. But beyond practicality lay something more profound, a yearning for home, for family, that Lily had suppressed for so long it felt almost foreign to acknowledge it. Sarah had converted the small dining nook into a bedroom for Lily, painting it yellow, like the daffodils we used to plant, she'd explained, her voice catching with emotion. On Lily's first night in her new room, Sarah hesitantly approached her doorway, something clutched in her hands. "I found this," she said, holding out a worn stuffed rabbit, its fur matted with age, one ear slightly crooked, "in a box of things your Aunt Carol saved from our old house. I wasn't sure if you'd want it, if it would bring back difficult memories, but—" "Hoppy?" Lily whispered, taking the stuffed animal with trembling hands. A flood of memories washed over her, being tucked into bed with the rabbit clutched to her chest, her mother's voice soft as she sang lullabies, the feeling of absolute security that came from knowing she was loved, protected, safe. "You remember him?" Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "I remember everything," Lily said, and it was true. The memories she'd locked away for self-preservation were returning, not all at once, but in gentle waves, each one bringing back a piece of the childhood she'd tried to forget because remembering hurt too much. That night, Lily slept with Hoppy tucked against her chest, just as she had as a child. For the first time in 8 years, she didn't dream of abandonment or loss. Instead, she dreamed of daffodils pushing through soil, of new growth after the longest winter. Summer turned to autumn, bringing cooler temperatures and leaves that blazed with color before drifting to the ground. Lily continued her community college courses while working at the diner. Sarah's lawyer confirmed that the insurance trust could indeed be accessed, opening doors that had seemed permanently closed. Their relationship deepened, strengthened by honest conversations about the past and careful hopes for the future. There were difficult moments, times when Lily's anger resurfaced, when Sarah's guilt became overwhelming, when the weight of 8 lost years pressed down on them both. But they worked through these moments together, sometimes with the help of a family therapist who specialized in reunification, always with the shared understanding that healing wasn't linear but worth every painful step. On a crisp October day, as red and gold leaves swirled around them, Lily and Sarah walked through the city park, their breaths forming small clouds in the increasingly cold air. "Winter will be here soon," Sarah observed, her hands tucked into the pockets of Lily's old navy blue coat, which she still wore despite its frayed cuffs and safety-pinned front. Lily agreed, glancing sideways at her mother. "You know, we should probably get you a new coat. One that actually zips?" Sarah's hand went to the safety pins, a gesture that had become familiar. "I'm rather attached to this one," she said with a small smile. "It kept me warm on the coldest night of my life." Lily understood the double meaning, that the coat represented not just physical warmth, but the kindness that had brought them back together, the beginning of their second chance. "At least let me fix the zipper," she suggested, "or replace the safety pins with proper buttons." Sarah considered this, then nodded. "Buttons would be nice. But only if we do it together. I'd like to learn how—" As they continued their walk, a comfortable silence between them, Lily found herself thinking about the strange, circuitous path that had led them here. How a simple act of kindness, giving away her only coat to a freezing stranger, had returned her mother to her. How sometimes the things we think we've lost forever find their way back to us in unexpected ways. That evening they sat together at Sarah's small kitchen table, sewing buttons onto the old navy coat. Sarah's hands, once unsteady from medication and trauma, moved with increasing confidence as Lily showed her how to secure each button. The domesticity of the moment struck Lily with its profound simplicity, mother and daughter, sharing a skill, creating something together. "I never thought we'd have this again," Sarah said softly, her gaze fixed on her stitching. "Ordinary moments. Just being together." "Neither did I," Lily admitted. "For years I tried not to think about what I'd lost. It hurt too much." "And now?" Sarah asked, her voice careful, hesitant. Lily looked up, meeting her mother's green eyes that had once been familiar, had become foreign, and were now dear to her again. "Now I think about what I've found," she said. "What we've both found?" Sarah's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds, radiant, healing, full of promise for brighter days ahead. Outside, the first snowflakes of the season began to fall, gentle harbingers of the winter to come. But inside, warmth bloomed between mother and daughter, a warmth no cold could touch, no storm could diminish. As they finished their work, adding the final button to the coat that had brought them together, Lily realized that the greatest gift wasn't the coat itself, or even the reunification it had sparked. The greatest gift was the understanding that sometimes the most profound transformations begin with the simplest acts of kindness. A coat shared on a cold night, a second chance offered and accepted, a love that survived against impossible odds. The coat hung on a hook by the door, no longer held together by safety pins, but by carefully sewn buttons. A visible reminder that what had once been broken could be mended, different but perhaps stronger for having been repaired. Like the bond between them, it would never be exactly as it was before, but in its restoration lay a deeper beauty, a testament to resilience, to second chances, to the enduring power of love to find its way home.